a similar peer situation, which was very, very helpful and could be modified for different schools. We had a mediation team that a principal started 9 years ago, and he chose my child to participate on this mediation team, which was a little interesting because my son didn't have the greatest of social skills as an 11-year-old or a fifth grader. But it made him feel a part of the school, which is very important for all children to feel. And it put him in with a group of children that were educated to take care of other kids. And this mediation team would meet about once a week for 15 minutes after school, and they were trained to be on the lookout on the playground for situations that could be, you know, bullying on other children or children that were sort of targeted for bullying. And this was really, really helpful for our child to be involved with that. We talk a lot about educating our schools, our teachers, our administrators, and the children within the classrooms around our children with Tourette syndrome. But sometimes we forget some really important people that can be turned into a great support system for our children. And that's the custodial workers, the cafeteria workers, the security teams, the librarian, people that you may not think you really need or have to have at an educational in-service for your child, but in fact you do. There's a lot of areas within the school and the bus where children can be easily bullied and targeted. And so it's important to get these people involved, because as your child is walking the hallways and there's no teacher around and some bully comes out and attempts to do something, these security workers are all over the place now. You want them educated on what Tourette is all about. And also, things are put on videotape now. So if there is a question, you can go back and look at what's happened to your child. And the security people can be a huge asset, as can the cafeteria workers, librarians, wherever these kids are. Okay, so we've got the school system, we've got the school environment taken care of, but what happens with the rest of your child's day? What happens when they come home from school and they're out in the neighborhood, or they have Cub Scouts or Boy Scouts or school activities, swim team? These are all groups that you need to make sure are educated about Tourette syndrome so your child is not targeted in these areas. These people may not, probably do not know about Tourette syndrome. And it's another great opportunity for you to get out there and to educate. Your child may want to help you with it, depending on their age. They may want to just help answer the questions that the other kids have. You might want to write a letter for the swim coach to pass out to the other parents on the team while you and your son or daughter educate the kids on the team about what Tourette syndrome is. Same with Boy Scouts and all the other activities. An area that we commonly forget to communicate with is our neighborhoods. And neighborhoods can be dangerous places for children that are different. And so it's important to get out there. A year ago, I was working with a woman who had 8-year-old twins. One of the twins has Tourette syndrome, and he was being bullied by other children in that neighborhood, and it was really bad because he so badly wanted to be accepted with the children in the neighborhood, but he couldn't ride his bike with these kids, and they wouldn't let him play ball in the street with them. So I went over to her house, we spent some time together, and I brought some really cool snacks and cool looking drinks and some basketballs and some hula hoops and jump ropes, and it was a summer day, and so the children started coming out for this, and brought them over and we engaged them in some play. And pretty soon the parents began to wander over to see what was going on, and we began, the mother and I, to educate this neighborhood on what Tourette syndrome was. And do you know that by the next day, this child was more accepted into the neighborhood. He began riding his bike, and it was just a wonderful, wonderful thing to watch this little kid be able to come home and feel safe in his neighborhood environment, which you would think you should be able to already, but we need to educate everyone.
I just always like to throw this definition out there, telling versus tattling, because it's so critical for our younger kids. And it ties back to that code of silence. If you think about why kids don't report bullying situations, think about all of the things we have in our culture, like snitch and rat think and everything else. I mean, from a very young age, we're ingrained to not tell. So even on the playground, you hear this telling versus tattletale. You're a tattletale. So we've started with very young kids to try and get them to learn the difference, that telling is done to protect someone, tattling is done to get somebody in trouble on purpose. So we tried to find that distinction between those two things. All right, I want to talk a little bit about, kind of just some of the recent research in bullying prevention is really, there's strong indications that the ones who are going to make a difference are really the bystanders, the peers themselves. Because so much of what our kids and teens are so affected by what their peers say and do and what they don't do and what they don't say. And there's a statistic that over 60% of bullying situations will stop when a peer intervenes. And what do we mean by intervention? And again, it isn't jumping into the middle of a fight and trying to stop it, but that can be an intervention. But think of a scenario with, we always teach kids, when we talk about intervention, think about a scenario where there's a robbery, and you see a robbery in progress. You can go in and stop the robbery if you want to do that, if you feel safe doing that. Probably not. But what else can you do? Well, you can call 911. You can, after the robbery's done, you can go tell the store owner a description of the person. You can go back and help the store owner clean up afterwards and say, I'm sorry that happened in our community. You can go out after the event and you can put up, you can talk about your neighborhood, about how you make your neighborhood safer. So there's a lot of things that you can intervene, and if you apply that same kind of concept to what peers can do in a bullying situation, so if they see a bullying situation, they can do something that they feel comfortable with. And so much about bullying is people feeling isolated, feeling like they don't have anybody who cares, who's not looking out for them. So supporting someone or intervening can be as simple as someone who sees a bullying situation as a peer, they can go up to that person and say, hey, I just saw what happened to you. You really didn't deserve that. I don't agree with what happened. They may not feel comfortable jumping in the middle of it, but even just showing their support is going to make a huge amount of difference in the culture and for the kids and how they feel about it. And in talking to our focus groups, almost universally, kids don't like bullying, but they don't know what to do about it, and they don't feel supported in doing it. It's hard to be the Lone Ranger in a bullying situation. And again, it goes back to that code of silence, though. So if a bunch of kids are around and they see a bullying situation happens and nobody does anything about it, then the bully feels support. They feel support by nobody saying anything to stop it. The kid who's being bullied doesn't feel support because they feel like everybody's accepting it. The kids watching it may feel scared, but they don't know what to do. Again, it's about, and so if the kids can make a difference, but what they need from us as adults is support in doing it. And so again, that goes back to what I said earlier. This is a community issue, and it's where you as parents, if you're up to it, you can start bringing this information into the schools. And one of the things you can do, here's a little PR, you can use the PACER resources to do that. They're free, they're downloadable, they're edgy, they get kids involved. There's great things in there for students that they can do. Kids, if you're in high school or whatnot, you can go in and there's activities that you can bring into your school. We have great skits and plays that are designed for older kids to present to younger kids. And the beauty of that is the younger kids really look up to the older kids in getting that message, and the older kids are learning about bullying by osmosis. So again, another win-win for everybody. But what we need is to start having this dialogue about bullying, and that just hasn't been happening. It's been accepted for a part of our culture for so long. So there's not any silver bullet fixes here, but it is about people starting to talk about it, to bring it to the forefront, to start addressing it instead of just accepting it as part of our culture.